Merry Christmas, James. 30 episodes up. Who would have thunk it?
Who would have thunk? I've got the boat hitched up.
Yeah.
I've put the dog in a boarding kennel. I've got my Hawaiian shirt on.
Woohoo.
And I'm ready to reflect on the year that was, actually.
And then we can indulge.
Okay, let's do that. Seriously, though, are you going to start?
Oh, sure. Look, I guess to anyone who's watching, a big thank you. It's been very exciting. What was a simple idea of how we're going to reach out to our principals through the COVID period and follow on the great work they've been doing. It's been fantastic to go into schools and have teachers come up and say, "Oh, we've just been watching and now we're doing
the visioning
to see that there's actually an impact from our work has been really rewarding." And for those many schools that are involved, not from my network and your former network.
Yeah, and I've really enjoyed putting together, the literacy stuff, the numeracy stuff, digging into Scout, all of that stuff. Which we probably used to do one-on-one, but we just couldn't at the time. But this has been a really great adventure for me and hopefully for you.
Oh, I've loved it.
Yeah, great.
I'm not so sure about the Muppet comments.
We've been called everything from the Muppets to the two Ronnies.
Well.
That's all good. We love it.
And I'm really excited by the code next year and working on that commitment collective. I think that's got real potential, and for schools that jump on board, I'm really excited that that's going to drive huge improvement. So I see that as the next big thing for us, James. And
look, and from the handful of situational analysis that I've seen, I think we've been right on the money here. Firstly, getting the SEER material, communicating it, and then doing these little snippets that sort of help implement it.
So we know we're going to come back. 2021 is going to be a far more stable year than 2020. And our schools will be finalising their situational analysis, and we've got some episodes planned to support the development of the SIP and finalising that consultation process. So we've got a bit to do there. We've got the cracking the code and I'm really excited, James, by the difference that's going to make. The idea of the commitment collective and rolling that out across those key deliverables in school.
Yeah, and I think co-constructing that with your strategic improvement plan will be a really strong to the business of educational leadership.
Yep. But we know that while all that developing is going on at the beginning of term one, it's still business as usual. Kids turn up and we've got to run schools effectively.
Yeah, and look, and that's, if I think back to being principal again, put my principal's hat on, hitting the ground running. So I would probably be prioritising that. Remember, when we're back in those early episodes, there are only 200 teaching days. And my concept is one that we leak. Even if we had the best set of teachers and the most ideal context, every day we miss that literacy session, that intervention, that, whatever it is that you have identified in your situational analysis, every day you don't do it is a day we don't have. And the higher the FOE in a school, the less time you have to play with. So I'm saying prioritise business as usual.
Yep, and I don't think the FOE matters. I think you can't afford to waste it.
Well, all right, yeah.
You're primary, I'm high school. Let's talk about where your focus would be. Let's go one for one.
All right, start with the measurables: reading, numeracy, reading groups up, numeracy groups functional, looking at the data that you have at hand now because of your situational analysis, gaining that collective around practice. How are we going to approach reading and numeracy? Certain non-negotiables around those sessions. We teach reading every day. We're going to do it with this pedagogy. We understand how best to do it. There's no excuses. Let's engage with the PL, where we have members on the team who maybe aren't up to speed with the elements of a reading program, elements of a numeracy program. And where are those kids? Where are we going to leverage intervention for those kids who most need it? And that's at both ends, the high achievers and the low achievers. That's my first one.
I think you've ticked off about 7. But
all right, well, I've always been good at that.
Yeah. In a high school, probably the first thing that I really want to make sure, so many students, so many subjects running, teaching and learning programs have got to be tight. If teachers aren't organised, then that translates to poor practice in the classroom. So teaching and learning programs supported by high quality assessment schedules and a good quality assurance to make sure that those assessments tasks that go out give students the opportunity to extend their responses from the top to the bottom, and that there's real feedback. So that would be probably the very first thing I'm going to kick off with.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'm saying you've probably drawn a bead on your vision from the situational analysis by now, let's hope. How do you operationalise that? How do you make sure that everyone on site is singing from the same song sheet, right? So that piece around vision and school values, and have those deep conversations about how are we going to bring collective efficacy to this site.
And I think the answer to that is using it every day. If this is our vision, then what does that mean for teaching reading? We've got to actually use it as the foundation for our action. In high school, I'm really keen to get my enrolments finalised. We know that we have our anticipators locked in, and we've got to get our actuals in, and we've got to make sure that process is tight, and that allows us to firm up our staffing and make sure timetables going to work and effectively support good quality teaching and learning practices.
Getting back to my theme of leakage, where else do we leak effectiveness? And that's the attendance piece. If kids aren't there, they're not learning. What have we got in place? We've gone into great detail around addressing attendance. So.
Well, I'm going to use one of Murat's isms. I'm going to double down on that, James, because I had attendance next on my list.
Yeah.
We've got to absolutely establish a new standard from day one. We talk about high expectations. We've actually got to deliver on this in our schools. And look, we've both been principals. We're old and crusty. We know the challenges, but that expectation, it's a great saying, I think, the greatest limitation on student achievement is teacher expectation.
Okay. I'm going to say let's keep it narrow and deep. I think as you move into you will know from your situational analysis the elements of uplift you need the most, whether that's attendance, whether that's literacy, whether that's left-handed basket weaving, to coin a phrase. You know what matters the most. So try and minimise the clutter around the outside, try and minimise the distractions, and get everyone on board with those key pivotal strategies that are going to see your students soar.
We've had this great opportunity with buckets of money and big dollars attached around the COVID-19 intensive learning and support program. I think it's really important that, again, we hit the ground running. We don't want to let any time go by before that's implemented. Schools have to have really strategic processes in place on which students are they going to target, what are they going to target, and how are they going to measure the impact. And that's got to be running very early, and you've got to have the right people on. It's a one-off opportunity, and we've got to get traction. And if we can drive some really big improvement through that, I think we've got grounds as a system to justify saying, let's go to that well again. If it works that well, let's find more money.
And look, anything I say from now is probably just repeating elements of what I've already said. I will accentuate one particular piece, and it's every lesson missed matters. And so whether that's because the program wasn't there for the casual teacher, or the book room isn't in order and we can't, the Wombat reading group doesn't have the next leveled reader available, whatever that is, you've got to look at the processes that sit behind good teaching and make sure that runs like a well-oiled machine. That's where our uplift is through replicating what we know to be the right thing, but every single day that we possibly can.
Yeah, I like your intensity around that. HSC monitoring is something that
it's non-negotiable.
We can't get it wrong. We can't afford to, and the kids rely on us not to. We have an episode in the pipes ready to support our high school colleagues to go early next year. But in terms of early term one, that's one of the things the principal's just got to have down and really know that they've nailed it.
Yeah. Probably less related to teaching but more related to safety is the child protection and the mandatory training. People will be engaging with that in the first 2 days. Don't forget to do the paperwork once they're trained. Don't forget, every adult that walks through the front gate of a school, there is a piece of paper attached to them, and this isn't bureaucratic. This is cross-check and verify.
Yep.
You know, it's really, really important.
We've spoken a lot recently at a variety of levels around high potential and gifted education, and I think there's a real opportunity for us to use that as a leverage point with the targets. We've got our top 2 bands in NAPLAN reading and numeracy, as well as our band 5-6 results in HSC, and I think that as a principal, I used to say, if you don't get it happening in term 1, it doesn't happen all year. So I think that that's an area of real opportunity. I know in my high schools, but I suspect in every high school.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, that's probably, I don't do too much, but those are the really big rocks. They're the important things to cover.
I've got just one more.
What does it go?
You've got to have quality PL plan from day one that's got line of sight to your plan.
Look, and I'm saying, absolutely agree. Maybe that has been unearthed during the situational analysis with.
And if not, you tune into the code and you'll get it in spades.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Good. Tell us what's on the cards for 2021, Steve.
Take 3.
Yeah.
And we haven't indulged as yet. Just things are not going the way they should. We've got 2 main work streams. We're obviously going to be looking at the situational analysis, unpacking that and turning it into the school improvement plan.
Strategic improvement plan.
Yes. Yeah, sorry.
Get it right. Get it right.
Take 4. We've also got the very important cracking the code. We'll break that down. We're going to spend a lot of time on making sure people get this concept that we've come up with around a commitment collective. We're then going to take you through a process of identifying our main categories of areas of work that we're going to drive, and we will release strategically episodes that sit under each of those so that schools can opt in. They mightn't need every aspect, and you'll get regular support.
Just us helping you make sense of the journey ahead.
Yeah. Look, I'm really excited. I think this will lead to great improvement on the ground. 6:28 p.m, James. I think it's really important that we encourage everybody to close the gate Friday afternoon.
Put out the cat.
Yes, and go and spend the time being the best version of you can be, whether that's as a parent, a spouse, a parent, father, mother. Go and enjoy yourself.
Musician.
As well. You'll be coming back, and as James, you often say, it does get clearer towards the end of January. We're really excited. We thank you for your time this year. We wish you and your family a Merry Christmas. We've got our wine shirts on. I think, James, you've earned a beverage. We could go out now and celebrate.
Soda water all round. Yeah. Take care, people.
Funniest thing you've said all year.
Merry
Christmas.